So in the biophysical universe, primarily what is real is sensed via senses, 5 senses: sight, feel, touch, taste, smell. There is a strong me controlling the senses and the body, completely lost in the VR game, completely identified with the container, with its senses. So what is real is only tangible: pleasure, pain. It's all there is. And every one of you probably remember those days. I would encourage you to remember, however years ago was that yes, that's how you sensed what was real. It was very real, very convincing, very real. So there was no awareness of something more subtle. Dreams were dreams, life was life, world was world. It was pretty much black and white, nothing in between. Well, awakening starts by questioning the senses. Is there something more than what eyes can see? So as we start to connect with Anda, the Pinda and Anda into 4D and above, what is real expands to include more subtle sensations. The senses are not the only measure for what is real. And as one meditates more and more, they start to recognize that there is a filter called Maya. It's a filtration system. Its job is to convince the reality of illusion. But for someone who steps onto the inner planes, awakening of spirituality, the subtleness arises. There is more light, more clarity. Well, the universe of energy opens up, and that becomes the most real. The inner part, the energies. Wow, it's such an immense expansion from the rigid shell now to the energy. Try to remember when you had that awakening, when the inner self became more real than the physical shell. Then of course there is love and unity. It's still energetic, all of it. But then in Brahmanda, it gets more cosmic. Proportions expand. Typically gods and goddesses become real. Cosmic self, the I am presence, or the cosmic space, for all of it. That's the real deal, the real stuff. The energy is at play, and now you are much vaster, much greater, much bigger. You're the cosmic self, that's the real. So much more to the sense of what is real. I remember in those days I experienced merging into the core of the galaxy and becoming the galaxy. And I could literally sense that I am the galaxy. And all these star systems are part of my body. Beautiful harmony, peace, balance. Such a beautiful experience to be the galaxy, and all the living beings are like cells. And there is a great harmony. Cosmic self-experience lasted for a good hour. What is real then shifts into the context, the space for experience, the non-dual self, and then it refines and brightens up and lightens into luminous, transparent, blinding light, mostly called the source, or we know it as awareness. It's a self-radiant awareness. This stage is important. It's so much more rock solid. And that's where many scriptures are written about being that light beyond universe. That's where the sense of what is real reaches the first major, truly major milestone. I am that beyond duality. I am that beyond the cause and effect. I am that changeless. Beyond birth, life, death. That's where the realness is really investigated with great clarity, with great comprehension, distinction, and shedding away, negating all appearances as transitory. So that's enlightenment, becoming enlightened. A deeper step is the Parbrahmanda, which then has a lot more realness to it. Even if you heard, you understand, you know the cosmology, but you can say, bear with me. Stay here. Experience it for yourself. I'm not repeating for you just as a knowledge, because I know you already know, but do you feel that? What is real now? And the Parbrahmanda is way more real. And that's where really God comes back. Because in awareness, a lot of times God, it's an idea, it's just awareness is a better word. The word God doesn't, yes and no, depends on the tradition, on the path as such. But awareness is way more solid. But in Parbrahmanda, something comes back to life. Not only as that light behind it all, but alive. It comes back to life. with so much more realness, love, and bliss. And then as we look at the Buddhist bodhisattvas, as Hindu Mahadevas and Param aspects, it's by definition Param is higher, bigger. Maha is bigger. So Parbrahmanda is the bigger one, the more real one. And it's bursting with much vaster existence. It's no longer dried out into non-dualness only. Many times that's where gurus and disciples re-experience another aliveness and devotion and love, and it all flowers back into life. In awareness, we could say you come to that summertime, but then it starts to dry out. Like in Malta, the summertime, when it comes, it gets hotter, 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 and all the nature from being green turns to dried out. But as the autumn comes, actually it's a springtime, because everything comes back to life. All the greenery comes back to life, the rain and all of it. It's very beautiful. It's one of the most beautiful times of the year. So a lot of life comes back in Parbrahmanda in many, many ways. And God, the nature of God, becomes so much more real, and again, we could say more personal, not strictly speaking in non-dual language. God comes back here, now, right in your face, with love and devotion. So then we come ready to go for another round of dissolution into complete peace, into the biggest void of all, and taking some good rest. And the Buddhists, many lamas would assume that that's the emptiness that Buddha spoke of, because now it includes all the bodhisattvas and all the colorful, blissful realms beyond dualities, and that emptiness is the biggest, most vastest emptiness of all, the ground for all the play of all. The sweetness of the mysticism is experienced, loving the unknown, loving that peace, that emptiness in which there is complete fullness of all. It's a beautiful state. I love it. And then we get ready for the real, the Sat, the truth, the divine, the infinite, eternal realness. For those lucky ones who come to that and who have time to settle into it, and who take time to inquire and learn and familiarize with what divine truly is, it is so much more than anything before. so much more than emptiness and fullness, so much more than the greatest games of Parbrahmanda, so much more than dual awareness and all below. So much more and more and more what divine truly is. I usually say that this is beyond real. If things were real and getting more real before, then divine is beyond real. And you will come to experience that in cycles. Because first cycle is when we take you through the LOC journey of self-realization. That's a first round. As you give it some time to settle in, and then we start working on the soul seed mantra. Then we start coming back to it. But as you cleanse yourself of all remaining karma, and as you will reach the divine abode of liberation, by that time your experience of the true home will be so much more than anything ever before. It's a bit like, I'm getting the analogy like when you were a kid and your parents maybe took you to some nice place and you say, yeah, that was a nice place, I have good memories, but it was in the mind of a child, you know, it's a bit dreamy. Do you get what I mean? It's dreamy. It's because it's perceived through the mind of the child. It was beautiful. That's the memory, and I was there with my parents, but it's a bit like dreamy. It has that flavor. But then as you come back as an adult, it's way more real. So literally, coming to full consciousness 1000 is one part, but working your way up into 10,000 is 10 times more. It does depend how much attention you pay to that reality of existence. Because the world of creation tends to pull attention into the form, into the objects. But drawing your attention or letting it rest in the divine is beyond real. And then we take the journey on your aligned path of divine, and you experience 6 more steps deeper the essence of divine. As we work through it, you will feel more and more expansion and getting to explore the vast arrays of divine existence. And once you complete your native divine path, we go back to the divine gateway and we do preparation to now open up the other divine path. And that opens the door to another way of experiencing the beyond realness of the divine. And if you had any mind left, it would be blown away again. Because, oh my God, it's as different as Buddhism and Hinduism, but it's as real as the very native path that you were on. And that too is absolutely divine. And that too has all these divine steps. And as you walk the path of the spirit, you get blown away again and again and again. And as you reach the top of the path, so in my case, my native path was a third divine path on which Meher Baba was the latest hierarch, we could say, or the being at the very top of that path. And then I made my way one step over to finish that path, and then back to the divine gateway. And then, okay, let's go on another path. And on that path, there are different divine masters. And they're okay, let's work on this now. If you have the juice to carry on. So we worked through the other divine path. On that divine path, I would say Ascended Master Saint Germain was the greatest example in the history of God individuated, though he did not teach about the divine path. He taught about the I am presence, what was relevant. The basis is still beyond real in the divine. But the exploration just keeps opening, because now the spirit is different. It has a completely different flavor. And as you explore what it entails, that spirit, it's a very different way, yet equally as beyond real. And there are stages to open that spirit, to clear the path. And then as you go to the very top and complete it, you have cleared the two paths of spirit. So the ascended masters, all the Chohans, actually have completed 5 divine paths and gained mastery. The ascended masters, the Chohans, have completed 5 divine paths, and they matured and gained mastery over that post, over that role of a Chohan, which is a very long training. Very, very long training. When I look at the training of a Chohan, many lifetimes in enlightenment, you need to train for that. It is known that Jesus and Buddha and so on, they spent many on the higher planes. They have spent many, so to speak, lifetimes or periods of training to qualify for the role of a world teacher. Life never ends. I still find most joyous to keep training. Not learning, I don't know, learning it's not the right word, but training of service. Maybe that's better. Training to be of service. So, to clarify that it is possible to complete the divine paths, it doesn't mean that you will become a Chohan, ascended master Chohan, because that is a very specific training and responsibility. But completing the path is doable and possible. Being a Chohan is, in a way, a vast work, but it's a focused work, because a Chohan focuses on one ray of God, like the violet seventh ray, Saint Germain. Maha Chohan has a broader training, expertise of managing the 7 Chohans. Maha Chohan. He is positioned, Maha Chohan, on the upper divine gateway. Even the Chohans are, but Maha Chohan one step up. The upper divine gateway starts on the 6th divine plane, begins on the 6th divine plane. It actually goes, I will later clarify that we could bring clarity that there is the 7th divine plane and the 8th, because now I am aware of activities on the 7th and the 8th, and yet it still goes on. Now I will don't need to tell anymore bliss, how much bliss and love there is on the divine planes. Indescribable eternity, mercy, grace, power. What is real in the divine itself, that's already beyond real. It's not unreal. That's way below. It's more than real, beyond real, or actual real, or whatever these words are. You get the idea. Now, how is it experienced, these stages? Like, who on earth would qualify bliss at this place, bliss at that place, and more bliss at this place, and so on? But there are spiritual paths that do qualify those. And this is how I could go through these different divine paths and then can clearly see that at this, let's say, second divine plane of this divine path, there is like a station. And when you follow the spirit, you go to the higher station, from which then you see the second divine station and the first one below. It's a higher view, like a building that has top levels. As you go higher, you say, oh, okay, now it's clear what's on the one below. So as you go through the spirit, through the divine, then you see what is below on the previous stations. You get the larger bird's eye view, the Paramahamsa view. Soaring through the skies divine. And the upper divine gateway, then you have the bird's eye view of the spirits of the divine paths below and all that it entails. That requires, of course, a lot of clear vision. So this is how you distinguish, how you can distinguish these different stations and how the spirit unfolds and where the spirit ends on that divine path. So do I even ask myself what is real? No, that question dropped away a long time ago. Who am I? Sounds funny. So these stations above, then you see what's below. And interestingly, they're very much described by other seers. For example, Kabir and Santmat lineage has so many Satgurus throughout the ages, and they follow the second divine path, and they all confirm seeing what is on that spirit divine. So over hundreds of years, they kept clarifying each other and expanding the details of what is there. What is at this station and then on the other station, and what goes on. So this is the path of liberation, of experiencing what is real. A path of mastery and exploration. Because mastery comes through exploration. Like the Everest mountain. Here comes a British mountaineer and says, I'm gonna climb the Mount Everest. I'm gonna prove I can do it. And then he hires Nepali Sherpas, guides who carry his backpacks to the top of Mount Everest. So who is the master of Everest? The British mountaineer, or those who carry his backpacks and show him exact way to get to the top and to get him to the top safely, that he doesn't die on the way? So the British guy is the explorer, but the masters of Everest are the local ones, because they have went up many times. They know the way.